From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building dreams with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest. Dog tags to ownership, we're the best. Take the prize.
From the battlefield to the boardroom, this is DogTags to Ownership, the podcast where veterans share their journeys from serving our nation to leading in business. Hear inspiring stories of grit, growth, and the entrepreneurial spirit that drives those who serve to succeed. Tune in and take the first step toward your own mission in entrepreneurship.
Dear One Percenters, welcome to DogTags to Ownership, where once a week we interview veterans who charted a path towards entrepreneurship. Here, our goals are to share resources, advice, and success stories about starting a business, discuss strategies for building financial independence and creating your own path, and most importantly, build a community to support each other through the challenges of transitioning from service life to civilian ownership. And today, we're extremely excited to introduce our guest to the show, Carmen Fleischmann. Carmen is a proud Floridian. For the past 23 years, she has served in the Florida National Guard, where she still is serving, public affairs officer, and the founder-owner of Carmen's Wedding, specializing in wedding consulting, offering a full range of wedding services with expert coordinators. Carmen, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for joining us today to discuss your journey from dog tags to ownership. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
I'm sure I messed up the Floridian, but maybe I got it right that time.
I think
But with
that's why
that,
most people say Florida native.
Florida native, not Floridian. I try to go bougie on that one. But as I said in the intro, you are still in the Florida National Guard. You've been in for the 23 years. Just to start off, could you tell our listeners and followers a little bit about yourself and your military service?
I joined when I just finished my junior year of high school. My dad was a recruiter for the Florida National Guard. So I didn't really have another choice, but it was like, you want to pay for college, this is how you do it. I got to drill with my unit, which was a signal company there in the Panhandle, and drilled with them for a whole year before I went to basic training in AIT. So that was really cool to see that on the opposite side. So I signaled for a few years. I went to Florida State University, majored in English, and that's when I transferred over to public affairs. I was a print journalist and then a broadcast journalist, and did 2 tours in Guantanamo, running The Wire. That's a publication there. And then when I picked up my E7, I moved back over to Signal, and I'm currently the first sergeant of Bravo Company 146.
I did not get too deep dive too much into that, but can you just expand a little bit? So you came in as a signalier into the Florida National Guard, and then you said you went to Florida State and got your degree in English and journalism. What made you want to be a public affairs officer?
Really wish I had known about this MOS when I first joined. It's been brought up at Thanksgiving dinners to, my father, the former recruiter, of like, why didn't you tell me about that MOS originally? And this easy answer was, well, you were 17 years old and there's one public affairs unit in the state of Florida for the Florida Guard, and it's in St. Augustine. So he didn't want me driving as a 17-year-old, like 6 hours to drill. So it's like, oh, Signal's kind of like communications. I will put her over there. But when I found out about that, all I had ever wanted to be growing up was a writer. And I kept like notebooks, and I did short stories. I did nerdy AV club and all that other stuff, anything that was journalism. And so when I found out about the MOS, I transferred over there. But what I really appreciated about my time in a line unit and more of a signal field is that I didn't lose that respect for senior officers and senior leaders like I see with people that come into public affairs at the bottom level, because you are around the brass all the time taking pictures, and you can lose your military bearing because you think you're one of them, but you're not.
Yeah, and I think that's an important piece that a lot of people don't realize when it comes to public affairs and who all you're around. You're in the Florida National Guard. You work as a PAO at Fort Belvoir currently, and then you also are the founder of Carmen's Weddings. So can you just talk a little bit about Carmen's Weddings, what it is, what you all offer with that?
Of course. When I was living in Florida, and prior to my husband's here on orders as well, and that's what brought us to Virginia, I had started this company. It was originally a plan for me to retire from the Guard with 20 years and to have something else to fill those weekends with. And when I retire in general, or my husband makes enough money for me to stay at home mom, this would be what I would do. And it kind of started by accident, but I hired my sister and my sister-in-law to be my other coordinator. So we get to trade off with me not having to go back to Florida for every single wedding. But it is full service wedding planning packages, which is, they get a call, they just got engaged, hey, help us find a venue, scope it out for us, come up with a theme and design concept, everything down to just day of coordination, where it's a super type A bride, has everything on lock, and she's got all of her vendors lined up, a little box of the decor that goes on each table. And then we just come in and execute that so she can enjoy her day, or he can enjoy his day, however that works for anybody. But the other side of that, which we haven't really touched on yet, but I am the most comfortable doing, is corporate events and any other kind of events as well. So it doesn't have to be a wedding. If it's this tax attorney's office, it's a bunch of accountants. Do they really enjoy party planning? So they could just hire us to put everything together and have a good time.
How did you decide on this, or was it a fairly natural thing for you? I should have my wife do the interview because she loves to do event planning as well. Like a natural desire for her. Is it something like that for you?
Sort of. So when full time, I had actually worked like I did for Fort Belvoir. I worked for the Florida National Guard Public Affairs Office, and I was in charge of visual information. So at that time, it was a lot of audio visual event support. So every change of command, every tag dinner, anything like that, I would do all of that setup and tear down of audio equipment. And through that, it was a lot of table arrangements, seating places, protocol, all of those things really built up my ability to to take charge and look at the details and keep everything running on a timely manner. So fast forward to a few years later, my sister's best friend was getting married, and, she'd take me out to dinner, and she's like, me and my mom are just butting heads. Like, she thinks she's in charge. I think I'm in charge. And I just want someone to step in and take it off of our hands and make sure everything happens smoothly. And my sister's sitting there. She goes, well, Carmen's bossy. She can do it. And she wasn't wrong. So I agreed to do it. I got her whole timeline. And, because I didn't have a company at that time, I was doing anything that she wanted on that day. So, like, I set up a charcuterie board for her and her bridesmaids. I was steaming dresses. I was pulling the groomsmen off the waves because they were surfing when they were supposed to get ready. All of those things, moving chairs because it had started getting wet outside, and all of those things. And it went very well. And the vendors that were there were like, this is the first wedding that I've worked that started on time. And I've been doing this for like 10, 15 years. You had everything completely nailed down. And it wasn't just the stuff that the bride sees. Like, I was tapping tables to create choke points at the buffet, like stuff that military, just stuff comes naturally, blocking a fire exit. Some planners don't look at those things. They're focused on decor and all the pretty details. They're not looking at the logistical side. So it felt very natural, and I actually left and enjoyed myself. I felt really good about doing this, and it's not something I ever planned to do, but it came very naturally.
Did it take some training, I guess, for, you said your sister and sister-in-law, to get them, I guess, to meet your expectations of what, your clients are looking for? Or was it something that came fairly natural for them as well?
We have different styles. So I try to do consultations with brides and see what they would respond best to. I am the closer, or, the super type A bride needs me as the logistics person. But I get some brides that, they're really go with the flow, keep everything happy. And, that might match more with Arnella and her style. She's very calm. She's easygoing under pressure. She's not going to flip out, but she just kind of keeps everything running on a smooth vibe. And my sister is extremely creative. She's in an all-female punk band, super cool. And she matches really good with the full service planning, or a bride that just needs some more guidance on what am I looking for? I don't really have a theme or anything like that. But as far as just like walking through the steps of everything that we do a call every other week from the time we started this company to now. And we talk about all these little things that I notice, things we should be doing, things we shouldn't be doing, and just adjusting from there. And they're all really receptive. I did have them shadow me a few times, but all 5-star reviews. There's nothing I can complain about.
Carmen, you said that it started because you helped someone because your sister said that you're the bossy one and can do it. And you did an awesome job with it. So is that like after you got done with that, where you're like, oh, maybe I should do this? And is that like what got the wheels turning or spinning to set up Carmen's Wedding LLC? And then can you just talk about that and how that process went for you?
I had talked to my sister about doing some kind of company on my own. I had left the federal government after deployment because I was like, I just want to do something different. I had worked for a sheriff's department, which was exhausting. And then all of this stuff. It's like, I want to do something that I enjoy. She's also graduated from Florida State and was an advertising major. And I was like, so from writing and advertising, like maybe we should start a PR firm. So before I even knew what I wanted to do, I took the Boots to Business class that was at NAS Jax, and learned about starting up an LLC and what that takes. But I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. I talked to my uncle who's like in advertising as well, just kind of spitballing some ideas. I'm a huge believer in the power of prayer and just things that can magically happen. And that happened like not even a month after I finished that class. And I was like, oh, this is what I can do. And it doesn't take all of this equipment or a storefront or anything. Like it can just be me selling my ability to keep things running on a smooth timeline. And then I went through Sunshine Biz and set up my LLC.
So you went through the full Boots to Business program. I guess when you said you did your LLC, you did it on a website.
Yeah, I don't know how it works for different states. Ours had one where you can register your LLC and then you're in different categories if you're a veteran. I'm still working on the SAM.gov one just because there's not a lot of military installations in Florida. So if I were to move it here, I would love to do the Officers Club just because I'm comfortable there. But it was a fairly simple process.
I use Zen Business to set up all my LLCs. So it's probably similar to what you used. But and that was going to be my next question was the veteran piece of it. And if you were registered as a veteran-owned business yet, and if not, is that something you plan to do? And then how do you want to use that to expand?
So I am through SunBiz as both a veteran-owned and a woman-owned, which are two separate things. There's unfortunately not yet a woman veteran-owned, but that's another topic for another day. I never really ascribed to that's the only thing that I have. I do try to use the other skill sets we have that we're family operated, that we don't have all these other coordinators that we need to pay. All of us still have other jobs. So I don't have to charge a huge overhead, but I do make it a point. I always have a veterans discount for veterans and active serving members. I try to work with them as much as possible. So it's more of that. And then also, they're one of the biggest wedding venues in St. Augustine is St. Francis Barracks, which is a building I used to work in. It is a state facility, but it's also the headquarters for the National Guard. So I try to tell them like, hey, if you don't really want to open this up too much to lots of these other planners that you don't know, like just use me because I'm familiar with the area. I know the security layout and all that other stuff. So
When you're doing wedding planning, do you help your clients like secure like DJs or caterers, things like that through the process?
it depends on their package. That's what I talk about in their first initial consultation. So I'm working on right now like an actual like form, but you want to kind of talk to them first. They want to share their wedding story. They want to learn more about you. So it's more of a conversation. I start off and asking, hey, what do you have planned for entertainment? They'll say it's either live or it's a DJ. Do you already have them booked? Do you have an officiant? Do you have a venue? Like all of those things. And then instead of them having to choose from all these different packages, I was like, well, it sounds like you just need help with the day of or the month of. And I have to explain like the big difference between the month of is like that's that last little hurdle. So that's help with the seating charts, finalizing the timeline, final the coordination with the vendors. But for every package that we do, even day of, like if you have a vendor drop out, like I will give you recommendations. Like from the time you sign an agreement, we are your planner. So I get brides just texting me out of the blue, like, oh my God, my florist got the flu. What do we do? Or something like that. Or do you have a template for a timeline? I'm kind of stuck. And we help them every step of the way.
Do you normally, whenever you're recommending vendors in Florida, like you said, it's not a huge military population, but is there veteran-owned businesses that you utilize for those recommendations and that you work with when you're doing events?
I don't know of any, unfortunately. There's very, very few that I know of. So I just joined the chamber recently and I did ask them for a list of veteran vendors, but I'm still waiting on that one. I would definitely check them out. I don't personally recommend anybody that I haven't worked with yet. I do reach out to them if I like their stuff and they have good ratings. I just want to check out, what the DJ sounds like and things like that. St. Augustine is a really small town, even though there are a lot of weddings. So you kind of start working with the same people over and over again. And you build up the relationships that way. But I would love to connect with more veteran-owned companies.
And you mentioned, so you just recently joined the Chamber of Commerce, I'm assuming down in St. Augustine. And I guess, did you join it to help with networking, clientele, and then just be a part of that organization? And if so, like, what have you gained or benefited from now being part of the Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah, it's fairly new. I joined 2 months ago. Because I still am in Virginia, I am a little bit limited, but I do try to make it a point to go to as many events as I can. They have ribbon cuttings like twice a month, and then they do these socials once a month. I went to the Christmas party that they had there. I reconnected with a publication there called Social, which I started advertising for. Ironically, I used to write for them as a freelance writer. So it is really good for networking, and I did build a lot of relationships, like, this person does chair rentals. That is one. I did find a tent rental company that is ran by a veteran female. Thank you for reminding me. We have not worked together yet, but she is on my list for people that need tents. But, it was really good because I was getting a lot of traffic through the Wedding Wire and the Knot, which are paid platforms that I use to get clients, but a lot of the vendors don't use it, and I use Alignable, but it also I don't really care for it. It's just like, "Oh, connect with so and so. How can we help you?" It's very automated. Having a one-on-one conversation or just like getting a couple minutes to introduce yourself to other business owners is invaluable.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna ask, like, for your marketing and advertising to get your name out there, what you said you use the Knot and some of those other types of platforms, but is there anything else that you use to really help get your name out there so that people know who you are and what you provide?
Well, we have our website. As much as I hate doing social media, I found I actually like doing it for my wedding business. So we are heavy on Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest. My sister does the TikTok because I don't believe in it. So I'm like, go forth, young one, go. I don't want to deal with it. And I just started advertising in social. So that's this door to door magazine that's also placed in a lot of businesses. And it's in North St. Johns County, which is more of Jacksonville, which is another area that we service. And then the other publication is for St. Augustine. So we're going to be featured in the January issue. It's a women in business feature that's going to be coming out. And I'm doing a bi-monthly quarter page on everything. So that's the extent of the advertising at this point. We do have a bridal expo coming up in Jacksonville in April. I started using Google more. It took forever to get validated as a business because I'm from home. So I have to like record myself walking into a door and all these things. That was a pain in the butt. So now I do a lot of stuff on Google as well. And then another wedding platform is Zola.
Carmen, how long has the business been in, I guess, operation now from when you assisted with that first wedding to creating your LLC? And I guess how many weddings are you all doing, I guess, on average?
So this is our returning 3 in like a week.
Okay.
So fairly new, started in 2023. And it's been a very slow and steady climb. And I talked to another DJ friend of mine in Florida, and he kind of started his business the same. It's like he started doing it on the side. Then he got to hire more help. Then eventually he got to make the jump in like that's your full-time job. But my first goal that first year was just to last the full year. So I dipped out of my own account a lot to pay for some advertising and stuff that we couldn't really afford at the time. And I think that first year we did maybe 12 weddings, maybe 10, not a lot. A lot of them were friends that we knew. And unfortunately, like we would book someone that was a friend and then like another family member like, "Oh, you need to really use someone that's been in business longer." And then they're like, "Oh, I don't want to lose you, but I got to cancel." I got a lot of hits from the Knot and Wedding Wire and just like out of town destination weddings. And it's like they didn't know who to use, and we were very low in our price point because I'm like, I'm just starting out. So we did like 12 that first year. This year we did 26, which was amazing. And again, this is still balancing. Like there's only 3 of us, and I can't even be there that much time. One of my weekends, usually every month, is for drill. A couple of weekends out of the year, my sister has, gigs with her band. So it's still kind of limited, but that was great. But what I told them on a call last week, which we were all super stoked about, was that we now have 27 weddings already booked for next year. And we didn't even hit our 26 number until like 2 weeks ago for this year. So that was wild, really, really wild. We got a lot pouring in like around April or May of last year to fill out the fall. So for us to already have all those on the books, it's growing. Makes me happy.
That's awesome. So are there discussions about the next step, right? Like what is the next year, the next 2, 3 years? Is there a move back to Florida? Are those conversations happening?
They are. I really want to be supportive of my husband's career. He's been very supportive of mine, but because we know like the end retirement plan for me is to have that guard retirement. Like I'm not going anywhere from Florida for at least until I hit the 30. So what we've been talking about primarily is, if he deploys or anything like that, then we'll go back earlier. If not, then at the end of his contract, which is July 27, then they'll head back to Florida. But we didn't anticipate it growing this much. I was just like, yeah, I'll keep it going while I'm here. No big deal, a couple weddings a year. But like now it's like I've been gone like every like 2 weekends every month for the last 4 months, which helped during the shutdown because I had a job. But to keep up that momentum would be extremely, extremely difficult. It's an area that my family's in, that I'm really comfortable in. So when he's asked me, like, well, if we want to stay in Virginia, you can move your wedding business up to DC. I'm like, it's just big. It's big and scary. I like Florida. It's calm.
I can relate to that being in Kansas City right now. I'm like, the pace is just a little bit more chill than Northern Virginia, DC area. It's a different
Yeah.
pace.
Yeah. And the people, I don't know, the brides I get there, I feel like here, and I could be totally stereotyping, but I feel like I'm going to get like some super anxious senator's daughter. And like, I'm going to have all of these things that just are way larger than the issues that I have to deal with there. And it's what I love about this company that I started is that it's not about a money-making scheme. I mean, I would love for it to be successful, but for me, it's just about something that makes me happy at the end of the day, at the end of the mission or whatever. Like, it brings me joy. It's brought my family closer together. My teenage son helps me move tables and chairs and even once decorated a cake. He doesn't like to say that because it's not very manly, but it's my mom's helping me with arts and crafts, and my sister, is in the business with me. Like it's a joyful, joyful thing. So like if it brings me joy there, I don't want to do it up here just to pay the bills.
I think that's super important for a lot of people who are transitioning out of the military, still in the military, getting into entrepreneurship, is finding something that brings them joy, brings them purpose after serving for so long. And I think you just like talking about it and lighting up about what the joy that it provides you, I think is super beneficial for folks to hear. Entrepreneurship doesn't have to just be a drag to find, the next big thing or to make the, millions of dollars. It can also be just to provide that purpose and that joy in your life, helping other people or doing whatever you like to do. So Carmen, I guess now that you told us, next year you guys already got 27 on the books. What has been your biggest challenge as you've now growing over the past 3 years, going from 12 to 26 this year to next year, probably looking to double that at this point. What has been your biggest challenge as a business owner?
I think it's just pivoting from being needy. We'll do anything that you want, because we need to build up that business, to because we have so many, we have to stick them to this contract that they have. Like if you only want to stay of, I can't be helping you pick out decor or putting out together or any of that other stuff that we would do in the past. And I want to make people happy. I want to be as affordable as I can. But I heard from a lot of other wedding vendors early on, they're like, you're shortchanging yourself and you're hurting the competition if you are underselling what it is. So I adjusted my prices after that a little bit. And it's just drawing that line of you need to, if this is what you need, we can do it. But if we have like a month on the books, and then a day of over here, I'm like, I schedule out, okay, we can handle this and that, but we need to keep it onto that timeline.
Yeah, I'm sure the expectation management is huge. And then being
Mm,
able to like truly understand, especially, if you haven't been married before and you're doing this for the first time, there's a lot of things you don't know. I'm sure like that initial conversation is a lot of you, having this experience, laying that out. Hey, what does this look like for the day of, for the month, for a full blown start to finish? And everything in between. I'm sure it helps them kind of visualize what they want. I'm sure that's extremely helpful in the process.
it does. I mean, but it's like with everything. People see a price tag and they get a little bit of sticker shock. But most of my people don't. They're like, "Oh, that's so affordable." But then I have some that are like, "Well, I could do this amount." I was like, "Then you get this amount of time." It's just having to stick to those things. I have another wedding planner who's like getting ready to retire and wants me to take on to some of her weddings, but I have to carry over the price tag that she offered. And I was like, "How can you do this?" It's crazy, but what has been a tricky thing as a business owner is learning the things that I still don't really know. I'm not the best. I get freaked out at tax season. So like every year that I do my taxes for the business, I think I'm going to go to jail every single time because it's just new. So I got a good tax attorney that does my taxes and helps me with that stuff. That was something to learn. And then just getting to adjust over time. But it's like anything. It's like you do a quick AAR. I'm like, what went well? What didn't what go so well? That's how we learned that we need to have in writing, they must provide a designated vehicle for us to load all their stuff in. Because if not, everybody gets drunk at the wedding. They all go their separate ways, and we're left with a bunch of boxes that won't fit in our car. So those kinds of things have just been,
Mhm.
it develops over time.
Yeah, I'm just laughing because I'm like thinking back to my wedding that we did, and I'm like, we did not have a wedding planner. It was like one of our friends that helped us with it, and yeah, we didn't. I don't even remember where all the presents were. I think the next day we had to go back and get them, like as you're saying that. So
I try to say
definitely,
that to everybody. Like, it's great that they have these friends that are planning on helping. But if they're a guest, there's going to be a point where they're like, I can have another and still help. And then it just goes right out the window.
yeah, yeah. Pretty sure people slept on our dance floor at our wedding, so
Sounds like a good time.
I don't know what happened to all the presents, but I think we got them. So, but
I think one of the things that was going through my mind, Carmen, knowing that transition point so that you're not holding back on the growth of the business when you're gaining this momentum, seizing that opportunity to take it to where you want it to go, and for it to be that transition into retirement from the military, and just not missing that opportunity, I guess. So I'm sure that's going to be a difficult, I don't know, transition point as far as like making that decision, while also trying to balance the family life and what your husband's doing and his career and all that. So, but I know that's something that's common with like real estate investors is just knowing, when to step away from the 9 to 5 and go all in, on what their passion project is. But I'm sure you're going to figure it out just fine. It seems like you've got a massively successful business on your hands.
I appreciate that. I know that it needs to have some growth, especially for the coordinators, but I don't want to lose what makes us special. So I have a couple soldiers that I've talked to about like, hey, if you ever want to do some part-time work, like I could use you as a coordinator. I keep calling her my sister-in-law. She's marrying my brother Tim in April, and none of us can be the coordinator because we're family. So I actually brought in one of my soldiers that I served with in Kuwait to step into that role, and she's looking to do something part-time. She's a newly single mom, and I don't want to lose that. I don't want to just hire somebody off the street. And like even me knowing them and know their personality and how structured and detail oriented they are and that they won't get bullied or anything like that, I still want them to shadow me so they can, learn the ins and outs of everything before they get started. But yeah, I want it to be a slow growth. That's what I wanted exactly. I don't want to be too overwhelmed to where we're shortchanging or treating anybody differently. And these calls that we do where I'm like, hey, let's go 60, 90 days out. Like the Army teaches me. And it's like, have you talked to this bride? I know it's not until April, but if you just touch base, introduce yourself, those kinds of things, just to make sure I almost said one of those things that I hate where I put a militarism in a place it doesn't belong. I almost said, make sure we're hitting those 30-meter targets.
Absolutely.
yes. I do have a question. As you're kind of talking about the growth and your challenges, do you feel like being in a service-based industry and trying to, I guess, figure out like what your brand worth is? So, like, how much to charge people? Has that been difficult for you over time, like starting from helping a friend to today? You said somebody had said you got to up your prices because you're hurting the competition and stuff like that. Has that been a difficult thing for you?
Not really, but I also talk to the coordinators or my family a lot about this, because I don't really know what the right answer is of the percentage that the company's supposed to pick to keep versus what you pay them. So I made up my own number and I'm like, does this sound good to you? And that's where we went with. And we just talked open candidly about it. Like maybe we should increase our prices a little bit more, not so much based on the competition, but just like the amount of hours that we're putting in. We also capped it at 8 hours now for day of and go to like additional per hour cost for any hours over that because there are some weddings like they want us to show up at 7 a.m. to set up and then we didn't leave until like midnight. That's a really long day. So those kinds of things were more easy for me. The service related part of the industry that I have had the most struggle with is just the respect aspect. The customers are the bride and groom and they're lovely and the parents also lovely. The guests is where I've had the issues with. And recently I had to do a wedding that involved a lot of military officers in attendance. And so when they started to act very unprofessional, I was in one of those crazy situations where I was like, if I was just Carmen the wedding planner, I would tell them where to go. But because I am also a member of their force and I know they outrank me by a lot, like, where is the line? It's like, hey, I know you're having fun. Go have fun over there. That's been personally my biggest struggle.
Yeah, and I'm sure, being part of the Florida National Guard, working weddings, like I would assume have folks that you work with that you plan weddings for. So it could be like a hard line that you have to sometimes figure out and juggle. So I appreciate you saying that.
Like one of your challenges is not time management because you're a PAO, you're in the guard, you're doing the wedding coordinating,
Mom of
you're
three
having
kids.
yes, you're a mother with 3 kids. Where do you find the time?
Don't know. Everyone asks me, but I know one of the things you've mentioned on your podcast before is about the making your bed book and everything like that. My thing after I make my bed is I have to do some kind of fitness in the morning. Even if I only have 10 minutes, I have this little app that I can do like a 10 minutes Pilates thing or something. And that's my only time that I have to like just let my brain go somewhere else. It's also probably not a good practice, but the minute my kids go to bed, I have to stay up for an extra hour. There has to be a glass of wine or a soda or something that's just an hour to myself. My husband can be there, but sometimes he likes to game or whatever. That's fine. It just needs this decompression time where no one needs anyone from me. So I guess I need an hour and a half per day.
That's awesome. One of our recent guests is like, instead of it being just like making their bed in the morning, it's like an ice cold shower, right? To like shock them into their day. I know, not for me, but everyone, kind of has those like, we'll call them habits or rituals or whatever that just kind of like center them for the day. And for you, the 10 minutes and then the hour at the end of the day, it's great. Like you're kind of like bookending it. And then it can be total chaos in between, right? Manageable chaos, I guess.
I've always strived in chaos. Even when I was in college and I had a term paper due the next day, my best writing was done like
Hmm.
crunch time the night before. And it's not like I'm a procrastinator. It's just, I don't know, stress just and me get along.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good characteristic to have.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Very similar. Carmen, before we get to our last 2 questions, even though you already brought up one of them, is there anything else you would like to talk about or discuss with our listeners and followers?
We kind of touched on it, but I would urge them to look for something that makes them happy. Not like I have this transferable skill. I have a lot of skills from the army, but I don't want to make a career out of that skill. It's not something that I greatly enjoy doing. So just to do that, and there's always someone you can talk to that has done it before. Just because they're the competition doesn't mean you can't, work amicably. I've asked people out for coffee and stuff like, hey, let's just talk and, do our hot takes on what's a wedding trend we hope dies in a dumpster fire. And it's a good bridge to have, with those other people. But it's all about making you happy. The military gave you the skills, the ability to pay for certs or training or whatever it is you do, but you need to take the extra step and now just do something that just makes you happy, but can also still help provide for your family.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And I think for everyone who listens to this podcast and that has come onto the podcast and that we've talked to, that's been a big thing for them is just doing something that provides you purpose, provides you joy when you're doing it. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that you did in the military. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. All right, Matt, over to you.
I have one bonus question before I ask my standard question. Have you been asked to do any weddings in Virginia since you've been there? Or have you had to like wave off on any of that?
One,
Yeah.
but she did not follow back up with me. During the shutdown, I had posted in our neighborhood that like I do wedding planning, and if there's any events here locally, like that I would be happy to assist out, share my website and everything like that. Did a whole consultation call, but never really heard back.
Okay. No, that's smart. You pivoted during the shutdown. That's interesting. All right. So my standard question is my passion's real estate investing. So I listen to a lot of those podcasts and audiobooks. Is there anything that you would recommend to our listeners, a book, an audiobook, a podcast that's really helped you in your growth and, your company and everything?
This is gonna be a terrible answer because I don't listen to podcasts that are related to this field or any field that I work in. It's another part of my decompression is like listening to true crime podcasts, and I do it all
Okay.
the time. So it's a very unhelpful thing. However, I do read a lot of books. So I just try to find different things in my field. There's a lot of different how-to wedding tutorials. Most of them are centered for brides, but it still kind of helps me get an insight into what they're looking for, what their checklist comprise of, what the latest trends and things of that nature are. So that's kind of where I am. But podcast-wise, I'm open to suggestions. It's just not something I've ever done. I'm driving my kids to school. I drop them off and then I can put on, Crime Junkie.
That's good. I think to have the decompression podcast to balance everything else out.
I think that is a trend across women veterans. You are now, I think, the third or fourth woman owner who has come on and said that is what they listen to, is like true crime podcasting. That's what their go-to is. It's nothing else. So I have to go back and do some like research on that, and on why does everybody listen to that to decompress? But
I have my theory. I think it's just we feel less in control and prepared when we're in mom mode, and it talks through all these horrible scenarios and things that could happen to our kids when we're not around, and it's like, oh, okay, I could plan ahead for this now. I think, unfortunately, is what it is.
that's actually probably pretty accurate, because most people are catastrophizing in their mind about the bad things that are going to happen. Carmen, you already kind of brought it up, but the last question of every episode is: Admiral William McRaven authored the book Make Your Bed, Little Things That Can Change Your Life and Maybe the World. So you are now, I think, our fourth PAO on the podcast. So I think you will be potentially the tiebreaker on this. So do you make your bed every day?
Every day.
Mm.
I've even kicked my husband out so I can make it. Like, you're supposed to be in the shower, move, I have to make the bed.
That sounds like the first sergeant.
Actually, that is what it is.
I may or may not have played Revelry for my daughter to get up the other morning on her Alexa app. Alexa, play the bugle call.
That is definitely the first sergeant in you, which I also think translates very well to being a wedding planner and putting people in line.
I feel like Julie should wrap it up, because you work with her, and I think she was able to convince you to come on the podcast, or maybe you came on willingly. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Julie and I have been talking offline, and I'm like, we need to get another female veteran business owner on the podcast, because we're in a bit of a drought there, a little bit of a dry spell. So it's been great to have you on the podcast. It's always intimidating having a PAO on here that knows probably all the questions that we're going to ask before we ask them, but extremely excited for your business and where it's going, and that you're sticking to what has made it successful and what has gotten you those 5-star reviews. And that's providing, I think, exceptional service to your customers, and not taking any shortcuts, right? Or like growing it too fast for that to fall at the wayside. So congratulations on everything you're doing, and being a mother, and being a active Guard member, as well as also a PAO and everything else you're doing. So congratulations.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. And I love this podcast, and I'm going to send it to all of my business owners.
Military 1%ers, whether you're brainstorming your first business idea, already running a company, or just curious about where to start, DogTags to Ownership is the place for you. Please hit that subscribe button to receive all new episodes. Also, if you know someone who has turned their dog tags into ownership, drop us a DM on social media or tag someone. We're always looking for new guests to bring onto the podcast. And as always, Military 1%ers, thank you for your service. Let's continue this journey and working together to write our next chapter. Until next week, keep pushing to turn those dog tags into ownership.
From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building trains with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest. Dog tags to ownership, we're the best. Take the pride.